Okay, welcome back after lunch. Hello, and welcome to JNUC once more. I'm Katie, but you're not here to see me today. Today we are joined by two very special guests, Andrea Minotti, who's from Apple Consulting Engineering, and Jacob Decking, who is a Mac Solutions Architect, and they will be sharing how to deploy macOS Sonoma with all of you today. Please note that the app-based Q&A will not be available for this session, but Andrea and Jacob have been gracious enough to volunteer to catch up with you in the hallway if you have questions after the session. So take it away, Andrea.
Thanks, Katie. So as Katie said, my name's Andrea. I'm on the consulting engineering team at Apple, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jacob, who's a Mac Solutions Architect. He's currently in the audience with you, but he'll be joining me up here later. So we'll be talking about deploying macOS Sonoma. So first up, in June at our Worldwide Developers Conference, we announced a whole bunch of new Macs, the brand new 15-inch MacBook Air, an enhanced Mac Studio, and the brand new Mac Pro, which is an Apple Silicon machine, specifically the M2 Ultra chip. And with that new Mac Pro, the transition to Apple Silicon and the Mac product line is now feature complete. Momentum continued last week. Many of you probably saw we announced new iPhones, Apple Watches, and AirPods. Over here we have the iPhone 15 Pro in titanium and the iPhone 15, both of which now have the dynamic island and also a USB-C port. And the AirPods Pro were also updated with the USB-C port. We also have new Apple Watches, Apple Watch Series 9 with the new double tap gesture to activate buttons in a watch app without touching the screen. And then the Apple Watch Ultra 2 also came out last week. Hopefully, now that you know that Apple Watch is manageable, your wheels are turning about ways that Apple Watches could be useful in your companies and schools. And new operating systems. Four of them came out yesterday. So we had iOS 17, iPadOS 17, watchOS 10, not pictured, but tvOS 17, and macOS Sonoma is going to follow them shortly next week on September 26th. And we love seeing Apple devices used every day at work and school. That's why you'll see pictures like this in so many of our presentations. But seriously, it is a joy to be out seeing our devices at use in schools. Recently, I was at a school and I had a 7-year-old explain to me how she had created a newscast with her iPad, green screen app, iMovie. She was like a maestro in iMovie. And even more recently, I was on the flight out here, and the flight attendants were using iPhones to sell snacks and drinks very seamlessly. And my absolute favorite is when I get a chance to peek into the cockpit, maybe at the edge of the jet bridge, and I see the iPad in there that has replaced a briefcase full of paper that used to be carted around by pilots. So to me, that's really exciting progress. And when I see that, I'm especially cognizant of and grateful for the work that you in the IT community do to make that kind of progress possible. Because it's easy to say, oh, we've always done it this way, we'll keep doing it this way, but when you push the envelope on what's possible, that's when great kinds of progress like that can happen. So thank you for the work that you already do, and thank you for the interest that you've taken today and coming here to hear us talk about how we're working to make the deployment and management process even better. So here's what's up for today. First off, managed Apple IDs. We're talking about these because they are an integral part in some of the new deployment and management features we're bringing to Mac. New deployment options. So we'll talk about some enhancements to automated device enrollment and also a new form of device enrollment. Next up will be platform changes, and Jacob will be talking about those. You actually saw one of them in the keynote today that Jamf has added, the new software update features that came via declarative device management. I'm very excited to see those in Jamf, and Jacob will be deep diving into how those look on Mac for you in his part. And then we will wrap it up and leave you with some resources to take home. And they're not under your seats. All right, so starting off, managed Apple IDs. So managed Apple IDs, just like a regular Apple ID, they give you access to various Apple services, but these Apple IDs are owned by an organization. They can be created manually in Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager, or they can be created automatically using federation with an identity provider. Some of our features depend on managed Apple IDs, like account-driven enrollments and shared iPad. This year was a very big year for managed Apple IDs. They became more powerful, and they're getting access to more iCloud services. This includes a dedicated wallet to store and synchronize corporate access cards, organizational credit cards, and even use Apple Pay. In addition, managed Apple IDs will also be supporting the full suite of continuity functions, including sidecar, universal control, and continuity camera. So this is a really nice way that someone with a managed Apple ID can now enjoy those features that allow them to have continuity from their Mac to their iPad to their iPhone across the whole ecosystem. Managed Apple IDs also have their own iCloud keychain to keep organizational and personal passwords separated. We also have passkeys now for managed Apple IDs. The iCloud keychain enables the use of passwordless authentication with passkeys. A new declarative configuration allows an MDM to deploy organizational passkeys. Passkeys are stored in the iCloud keychain of a managed Apple ID and are synced across all of their devices. And to help ensure organizational passkeys can only be used on devices approved by the organization, IT admins can make use of a new access management control in Apple Business Manager and Apple School Manager. And we'll show you what that looks like. So this is a view inside Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager. This access management feature allows an organization to define on which devices a user can sign in to their managed Apple ID. Will it be supervised devices only, managed devices, or any device? An organization can also decide whether iMessage and FaceTime can be used to communicate with anyone or only within the organization. And then finally, in addition to requiring a certain device management state, organizations can also enable or disable individual iCloud services. And all of this, again, is configured in Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager. So notice here, Reminders has been toggled off, and when I flip to the next screen, you'll see what the user sees when this has been toggled off. It's kind of hard to read, but it says configured by managed account, and they're unable to turn that back on. So that is what access management looks like. Finally, we also wanted to allow even more organizations to automatically create and manage Apple IDs using their identity provider. We're therefore introducing integration support with any identity provider using open standards, so OpenID Connect for identity management. And we're happy to share that Okta is working on becoming a supported identity provider using this new integration later this year. This means that if you use Okta, you'll be able to take advantage of federation and directory sync for your managed Apple IDs. So with all of these great additions, managed Apple IDs really are the best choice for organizations to unlock the productivity of their users and allow them to benefit from a seamless experience across all of their Apple devices. So if you're not yet using managed Apple IDs, if you've not yet dipped your toe in those waters, we really encourage you to give them a try. Next up, deployment options. So first up, organization-owned devices. Zero-touch deployment or automated device enrollment is the best way for IT to deploy Apple devices directly to users. It automatically enrolls organization-owned devices into your MDM solution, so you don't have to physically provision them before handing them out to your users. This is all enabled within Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager and MDM. So this is probably bread and butter for many of you, but we'll just walk you through the status quo really quickly before showing you how it's been enhanced. So you can see here, we're automatically enrolled into the MDM. And this automated process is supported across Mac, iPhone, iPad, and even Apple TV. And it really is the best way to deploy new or refreshed devices that are organization-owned. So that's automated device enrollment. It's for new or refreshed devices. The new features. First off, IT teams can now require Mac, iPhone, and iPad to be on a specific OS version prior to enrollment. This ensures the latest software is running before the user starts using their device. IT can also enforce file vault setup during Setup Assistant on Mac. And this, again, provides a seamless onboarding experience for end users, and IT can escrow the key to their MDMs. And finally, MDM enrollment can be enforced on Mac. So in macOS Sonoma, if a user bypasses enrollment and Setup Assistant for whatever reason, maybe the Mac wasn't connected to the internet, a new full screen experience will guide them to complete enrollment once they do connect. And we'll give you a peek at what this looks like. So here we are finding our MDM. And this is the required software update. It says that your device is on 14.0, but you're required to be on 14.0.1. And here we are, the software update continues, a familiar site there. And then here's our file vault disk encryption step in Setup Assistant as well. So those are the enhancements to automated device enrollment. Another option for corporate devices is device enrollment. Let's take a look at what's new there. So this is, the idea for device enrollment is designed for devices that are already in use. And it's a manual enrollment process. Normally, users would navigate to a link and download a profile. But we've made the process significantly easier this year with the introduction of account-driven device enrollment. So instead of downloading and installing a specific profile, users can enroll their device using their managed Apple ID right from settings and system settings. Similar management controls are available to the existing profile-based device enrollment, and yet similar to user enrollment, organizational data will be cryptographically separated from personal data. And you can see here, this is what account-driven device enrollment looks like. On the Mac screen, you can see that the user has navigated into system settings, privacy and security, profiles, and you can see there's a new work or school account sign-in button there. And when they tap that, that's when they'll sign into their managed Apple ID and enrollment will continue. So because this enrollment process uses the same discovery process as user enrollment, organizations get to decide which account-driven enrollment type is best for their users. Now we'll move on to user-owned devices. So user enrollment is designed to enroll personal devices, and it cryptographically separates work from personal data. The enrollment is driven by, again, logging in with a managed Apple ID using the same process as account-driven device enrollment. This year, we're adding the same account-driven flow for user enrollment on macOS. So management capabilities are based on a curated list specifically designed for BYOD. This allows IT to configure settings like accounts or deploy apps, but keeps personal information private and restricts admins from remotely wiping the entire device. This is how user enrollment balances user privacy with the need to secure organizational data. So that's what's new for enrollment, giving organizations more control and simplifying the onboarding experience for users. Now we'll move on to platform changes, and I'll invite my colleague Jacob up to the stage. Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you, Andrea. Hello, JNUC. Good afternoon. Thanks, Andrea. Great stuff. We're going to keep that going with platform changes. Have you heard that we're improving software updates? Let's start there. Yeah. So declarative software updates allow you to define which release should be enforced by a certain date and time. When an update is scheduled, the user is informed with a notification, and they can either initiate the software update right away or dismiss it. The user will receive one or more notifications leading up to the enforcement date, and they can also initiate that update in system settings. Throughout the process, the device provides status reports to the MDM server about the progress and detailed information in case the update couldn't be installed. Once the enforcement date has been reached, the user will be informed transparently about what is going to happen. So I want to look a little bit more about these notifications. So dig in here at 30 or more days out. The scheduled date and time for the update will appear in system settings. So that one's pretty simple. At 14 days, the user begins to receive daily notifications. at 24 hours from the enforcement, the user begins to receive hourly notifications. And at this point, notifications begin to bypass Do Not Disturb. And then at 1 hour from enforcement, the user will receive additional notifications, several, if they don't install it on their own. And these continue to bypass Do Not Disturb. So what happens if enforcement deadline is missed? For example, if a Mac isn't on or online while a user is out on vacation. First, macOS confirms whether the update is prepared. And if not, macOS will download and prepare that update. And then now that the update is prepared, macOS will schedule the update for 60 minutes out, at which point installation will occur. And then just in case, we'll loop back. So that's software updates. And now a few words on management updates as well. Sometimes organizations want to restrict what settings a user or even administrator can configure on their Mac. The new system settings experience allows for a very granular approach to do this. Instead of hiding entire system preference panes, you can restrict modification of very specific functionality. This includes restricting modification of features like changing the device name, modifying individual sharing services, setting up time machine, and even local account creation. Another feature, enforcing a specific configuration of built-in system services like Apache, CUPS, sudo, or SSH is often a requirement in certain deployments. A new declarative configuration and asset type allows you to do this. Configuration files or even entire directories can be distributed as a zip archive and are expanded into a service-specific and tamper-resistant location. We've updated various built-in services to prefer the managed configuration and also added an API for third-party developers to do the same. Now, software updates is getting a lot of deserved attention. But I can tell you the first time that I saw this in action, I did it with the sudoers file, and it was kind of mind-blowing. So I'm excited for you to get to explore this as well. Using declarations, the deployment and management of apps can be done right on the device. When combined with activation predicates, the installation can be triggered based on specific criteria defined by you. For example, this allows an app requiring a backend service to be automatically installed only after the necessary network relay configuration is activated. Using status reports, the device also proactively informs the MDM server about installation progress and management state. In addition to deploying an application, there are keys available to define the desired management attributes, like mapping the app to a certain per-app VPN or a content filter. Based on the declarative approach, a new framework is available to developers, and it can be used to build more responsive app catalogs. So think self-service. Instead of requiring a custom integration between the app and the MDM server to trigger app installation commands, this framework can be used to initiate app installations right from the device and without an additional round trip, resulting in a much more responsive user experience. So now moving on to more on identity integrations. Platform SSO has been enhanced and allows the use of an identity provider, or IDP, in even more places. It features a new interface in system settings to register and, if necessary, repair that connection to the identity provider. In addition to providing a single sign-on experience and to better support shared deployments, macOS can create a local account when a user authenticates with their organizational credentials at the login window. To define which permissions accounts should have on a system, a new group management feature allows an MDM to define authorization rights based on group memberships. This capability even allows non-local user accounts from the identity provider to be used at authorization prompts. In addition, we've added smart card support to Platform SSO. So this just-in-time user creation requires the device to be set up online and able to reach the IDP at the login window with File Vault unlocked and enrolled in an MDM with Bootstrap token support. So as we zoom in here, we see a user's full identity being used to begin this process of just-in-time account creation. And last on platform, let's dig into a few security controls new to Sonoma. So using a strong password is essential in many organizational deployments. Some environments have more complex password requirements that we can't be configured with the existing options that we've got today. So if increased flexibility is needed, password complexity can now be defined using regular expressions. To support users in ensuring their passwords meet the requirement, we are also changing the way password compliance is verified and communicated. If a new or a stricter password policy gets applied, the user will get a notification and compliance is verified during the next login. In case the password does not meet the new requirement, the user will be prompted to get it updated. In addition to great new features like managing software updates and service configuration files, declarative device management also brings many other capabilities. Those include the deployment of certificates and identities for use with mail and exchange configurations, as well as enhancements to the status channel, which proactively informs the MDM about changes on the device. This year, there are additional new status reports for background tasks running on macOS and for File Vault enablement state. Also, the status and list of installed certificate configurations will be provided to the MDM. Managed device attestation uses the secure enclave and provides strong assurance about a device's identity and security posture. This year, managed device attestation comes to the Mac. This provides the same great features as on iOS and iPadOS, including the ability for MDM to verify which device they are managing and to create hardware-bound private keys using the ACME protocol. These keys are stored in the data protection keychain, and they can be used with built-in services like VPN, 802.1x, and even Exchange. Managed device attestation, along with other new security and identity features in macOS Sonoma, allows you to create a modern and secure deployment. Now, let's begin to summarize, beginning with kind of the start of your deployment. We'd recommend that you use automated device enrollment wherever possible. Use these new enhancements to ensure a minimum OS version and to enforce File Vault during enrollment. Use device enrollment for devices already in use, and implement user enrollment for BYO devices, and both of those can utilize the improved user experiences with account-driven flows. For ongoing management and security, establish configuration baselines. Implement gatekeeper restrictions and other settings as appropriate for your organization. Use existing and newly enabled MDM functionality to keep Mac devices up to date. And use endpoint security framework solutions, depending, again, on your requirements. And as we explore advancing your deployment with identity integration, begin adopting managed Apple IDs. Federate with your identity provider and select which Apple services to allow in your organization. Pursue implementation of SSO with your IDP, especially via Platform SSO wherever possible. and dig into using passkeys in your organization. We encourage testing early and testing often, as shown in this timeline. It's just as important to test the early betas as it is to test the later ones. If issues are reported early in the release cycle, this gives us much more time to address them before a public release. And then next, we'd say test workflows with your MDM solution. Confirm readiness of your network and engage with other vendors and partners as needed. And last, validate that there are not other issues that would prohibit the deployment of Apple devices or your critical apps. Feedback Assistant is the most effective way to submit feedback to us. It automatically collects key diagnostic and device information, so it's important to submit from a device affected by the issue or the enhancement that you're detailing for us. Feedback Assistant is automatically revealed on beta builds of iOS, iPadOS, and macOS, and it can be opened on beta and non-beta builds from Safari via its universal link here, which is applefeedback:// Mac evaluation utility, available from Apple Seed for IT, keeps improving. Utilize this free utility to establish those baselines for your Mac deployment and to align with our best practices. We are frequently adding new tests and updating this tool, and brand new, it now includes the built-in ability to check whether it's the current version. So as we wrap up here, before we jump into resources, it's been an amazing year for IT. It's been so fun to work with many of you and to test many of this new functionality sort of alongside you. We are so grateful for your feedback and for your input, and we're so delighted to deliver the amazing enhancements we've explored today. And the features we just didn't have time to explore, like shortcuts integration, enterprise networks on Apple TV, and return to service for iOS and iPadOS. The exciting new managed software updates we've discussed, that functionality is based on declarative device management. You probably noticed we didn't have a section specifically called DDM here today. That's because it's become so pervasive in everything we're doing. We don't need a section just for DDM. Great MDM partners like Jamf know this, and they're enhancing their solutions accordingly. So as we wrap, allow me to share a few relevant resources to help you get ready for all these new changes. Apple Seed for IT, again, provides that access to beta software, along with in-depth beta documentation and release notes that focus on IT admin workflows. What's new for education and enterprise is a summary PDF of new security and management-related features in Apple's operating systems and apps. It covers much that we've explored today, and it's available on Apple Seed for IT. I don't have a home page anymore in my browser, but if I did, it would be the Apple Platform Deployment. This references a technical document covering topics we discussed today, as well as supporting information about infrastructure and services integration for deployment of all Apple products and services. And likewise, the Apple Platform Security documentation provides security information about all software, hardware, and services across Apple's platforms. And finally, there are user guides for both Apple School Manager or Apple Business Manager to help you navigate everything you need to manage your devices, purchase apps, and to create managed Apple IDs. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Jacob and Andrea, for the excellent information. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, no app-based Q&A for this session. However, if you catch them before they disappear in the hallway, you might be able to get your questions answered there. Thank you so much.